Hi, my name is Mandy Buchanan, and I'm the owner of the Go Deeper Bible Studies blog. And we started a series last week on what is commonly known as the gap theory. And it is about what actually happened in Genesis 1 and what did God create in Genesis 1 and what was actually created beforehand. And we looked there at last week at Genesis 1 specifically. So if you haven't seen that, I'd recommend that you watch that before you watch this one. But today we are going to have a look at another verse in the Bible, which also shows us Eden, but at a time prior to Adam. And I'm going to be reading from Ezekiel 28, verse 11. The word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, take up a lament concerning the king of Tyre, and say to him, This is what the sovereign Lord says. You were the seal of perfection, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. You were in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone adorned you: carnelian, chrysolite, and emerald, topaz, onyx, and jasper, lapis lazuli, turquoise, and beryl. Your settings and mountings were made of gold. On the day you were created, they were prepared. You were anointed as a guardian cherub, for so I ordained you. You were on the holy mountain of God. You walked among the fiery stones. You were blameless in your ways from the day you were created, till wickedness was found in you. Through your widespread trade, you were filled with violence, and you sinned. So I drove you in disgrace from the mount of God, and I expelled you, guardian cherub, from among the fiery stones. Your heart became proud on account of your beauty, and you corrupted your wisdom because of your splendor. So I threw you to the earth. I made a spectacle of you before kings. By your many sins and dishonest trade, you have desecrated your sanctuaries. So I made a fire come out from you, and it consumed you, and I reduced you to ashes on the ground in the sight of all who were watching. All the nations who knew you are appalled at you. You have come to a horrible end and will be no more. Now, what we see in these verses is Satan before he fell. He was the king of Tyre. Now, before I go on, let me just address those who are going to tell me that the king of Tyre was a real man like we are. And that is true. In fact, in Ezekiel 28, verses 1 to 10, God actually speaks to that man. And but he in this chapter he is called either the Prince of Tyre or the ruler of Tyre, depending on your translation. And Satan, who is specifically addressed in these verses from 11 onwards, was the king of Tyre. So they are two different entities. And Satan, it's quite clear here that God was speaking to Satan because he called him a guardian cherub and explained other things that could not have been true of an ordinary man. But we see a few things here about the time that Satan fell. And we know that he fell because of pride. That's quite commonly known. But we also see that at the time he fell, there was immense trade going on. Now, what trade was it? I mean, trade in order for trade to be going on, you need other people. You can't trade just by yourself. And there's not really much indication of angels trading. They have everything that they need in God. But Satan would trade with the nations of the world. And we also see here that it says that kings watched him fall. Now, when Adam was there, Satan had already fallen. When Adam meets Satan, he is a fallen creature. He comes in the body of a snake. But there were people there, or I say people, they probably weren't man as we know man today, but they would have been people who were entities who were able to trade, who were able to know things in the way that we do, sentient beings, and they watched Satan fall. So we see here that there were beings around on earth, and they actually watched Satan fall to earth at the time that Satan was cast from heaven. It actually says in Ezekiel 28, verse 19, all the nations who knew you are appalled at you. You have come to a horrible end and will be no more. So, when did these nations know Satan? It was actually before he fell. They knew him before he fell, and they saw him fall, and now they are appalled at him. So we see that there were actually nations around when Satan fell. And that is what we see in Ezekiel 28. Another passage in the Bible which refers to Satan's fall and also shows the other people around at the time of Satan's fall is Isaiah 14, verse 12. And it says, how you have fallen from heaven, morning star, son of dawn. You have been cast down to the earth, you who once laid low the nations. You said in your heart, I will ascend to the heavens. I will raise my throne above the stars of God. I will sit enthroned on the mount of assembly, on the utmost heights of Mount Zaphon. I will ascend above the tops of the clouds. I will make myself like the Most High. But you are brought down to the realm of the dead, to the depths of the pit. Those who see you stare at you. They ponder your fate. Is this the man who shook the earth and made kingdoms tremble? The man who made the world a wilderness, who overthrew its cities and would not let his captives go home? All the kings of the nations lie in state, each in his own tomb. But you are cast out of your tomb like a rejected branch. You are covered with the slain, with those pierced by the sword, those who descend to the stones of the pit, like a corpse trampled underfoot. You will not join them in burial, for you have destroyed your land, and killed your people. Let the offspring of the wicked never be mentioned again. So, at the beginning here in verse 12, it says, how you have fallen from heaven, morning star, son of the dawn. And that we know refers to Satan. So obviously what follows also refers to Satan. And it says here that he laid the nations low. And again, that he was brought down by pride. Those who see you stare at you, they ponder your fate. Is this the man who shook the earth and made kingdoms tremble? The man who made the world a wilderness, who overthrew its cities and would not let his captives go home. So Satan was on the earth before Adam as a proud ruler. And we know that he was also an angel. God referred to him in Ezekiel 28 as a cherub. But the nations that were here before Adam, he laid low. And they watched him fall. And so in this, we see how Satan completely destroyed the earth. And in the next session, we are going to be having a look at the punishment that came upon the earth and led to what we see in Genesis 1 and the recreation of the earth. And so I trust that you've enjoyed this session and that it's given you something to think about. And I look forward to meeting with you again next week. Thank you and goodbye.